Hmm. Got it.
Today I want to talk about pulp horror manga, specifically the 3 releases from Living the Line Smudge imprint of pulp horror. So I'm going to flip this camera around, put these 3 great books under the microscope. Stay tuned and watch this video until the end. And we're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you for joining me. Today we are going to talk about Smudge manga. This is an imprint of Living the Line, a great publisher and curator of awesome independent or international graphic novels. And they've now dabbled in manga from Japan. And they have Ryan Holmberg as kind of the front head of curating this collection. Ryan Holmberg is a longtime translator of manga, and it's great what he's picking out here. I just love the idea that I don't know what Ryan does as far as how he picks these out, but I just love the fantasy idea of like traveling over the world, trying to find awesome comics from other countries and getting them translated in English to kind of curate and pick awesome stories that we've not read in English before. So yeah, Ryan Holmberg does all the translations for these. And then Sean Michael Richardson of Living the Line does all the book design and lettering on the inside. And these are all the first 3 output of the Smudge imprint. We have Her Frankenstein by Kawashima Norikazu, UFO Mushroom Invasion by Shirakawa Marina, and Mansect by Koga Shinichi. We have 3 different one-and-done manga. All the stories are one and done. They're not multiple volumes, and they're done by 3 different mangaka. I believe Her Frankenstein was from the 1980s, and then these 2 are from the 1970s. So they're also classic manga. Now we do know that the 4th release is going to be. It's called Face Meat. I believe it comes out this month, and I can't wait to pick that up. I'm instantly a fan of Smudge, the imprint of Living the Line, and it has now become a thing where I'm going to pick up every volume that comes out. The curation from Living the Line and Ryan Holmberg itself has gained my trust to where I want to. It's like you become a fan of like your favorite imprint of a punk label back in the day, and like you're willing to try out any band that comes across that label. You just trust that when they put that mark, that Smudge imprint mark on them, that it's going to be good stuff. So I do want to show off the spines together because they look really cool on the shelf. These books are really well designed, like I said, by Sean Michael Richardson. They all have like title lettering, the Smudge logo on the bottom, and then the mangaka who created it. And then here's the back covers, which are all taken from artwork inside, but done with the cool design of color and things from Sean Michael Richardson. And we're going to go through each of these individually. These are tankobon sized. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So like, just real quickly, as far as a single issue comic book goes, and like this, if you're not familiar with the tankobon size, you can see that it's smaller than it and shorter than it. But this is like the typical format in manga in Japan. And I think these are all, they're all $19.95 a piece. But one thing I love manga. I don't read more manga than I do Western comics. I read more Western comics probably. But I always like to dabble in manga. And one thing I was trying to hunt down is one and done manga, which is not something you find often. So that's one thing I love about this too, is that I don't have room on my shelves for like a 34 volume set of a long series, but these one done albums I can definitely make room for. So on the inside cover, we get a little image here, and it says Smudge Volume 1, 1986. And when you get, they seem like they're continuing that on, which I love. So like the third one, Mansect here, it says Smudge 01, 1986, Her Frankenstein. The second volume of the Smudge imprint was 1976, UFO Mushroom Invasion. And the third one was 1975's Mansect. So I do love that they're creating that on to continue on. Now this was a second printing of Her Frankenstein. I borrowed this from my library last October, and I intended to do a review on it during my 31 days of horror comics, but I just never got around to it. I might do separate videos on each of these when I get to October this year. I'm not sure, but I do 31 days of horror comics, so stay tuned for that. I do have a playlist on my channel too, showing off the last year's 31 videos I did. So here's the artwork, and it starts off the story with this typical businessman. He's in his car, and in the back seat he sees this image, shadow refigure of this girl, and he's like freaking out, and then she disappears. And he starts to see this girl in multiple places. He sees it when he's in the shower here. He's in the bathroom, and then she shows up in the bathtub, and he's freaking out. And then all of a sudden his wife is like, "You're going crazy, there's nothing there." And then I have to say, the language and the verbiage of what these characters say is hilarious. I don't know if that's Ryan Holmberg's translation, because there is an art to translation. Translation isn't just literally like Google Translate, you plug in words and then it spits words out. There is like a creative liberty you could take with translation, and some translators try to be more direct with the translation. Some translators, will play around with things. But regardless, like I'm not gonna read it out loud because it's YouTube, but just read what she's saying here, and it's hilarious. Like the characters are like cussing it. I don't know if that's Ryan Holmberg or if that's what the manga actually said. And honestly, I don't really even care. This was entertaining to read, just like the outrageous things that these characters are saying. But anyway, so this girl comes and throws her arms around him, and he's just like, "What's going on?" So he goes and sees the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist is trying to pinpoint who this girl is. And then from there, that's where you see the title image, which I love, this bright yellow that Sean Michael Richardson picked for this one. Like, this is going to stand out on a shelf if you have it displayed as such at your comic book shop. But that's the original image right there that he used for that. And he's just going crazy because he recognizes this girl. And then it sends him to this psychotic trip flashback where he's, as a kid, explaining who this girl is and how they came to be. And it was this girl that he knew that she was rich and beautiful, but she's also lonely, didn't have a lot of friends. And this kid kind of became infatuated with her and wanted to be her friend. But then they started playing this game where she's obsessed with Frankenstein the monster, or Frankenstein's monster. And from that, this kid wanting to impress her, let me see if I can find it, creates this Frankenstein mask. Oh, they watched Frankenstein together too, the original Universal Monsters Frankenstein. So he creates this mask, and it's a Frankenstein mask. And you see this like little kid wearing this giant mask that looks brilliant. And then she starts obsessively making him terrorize these kids and stuff in town as the Frankenstein's monster. It's like the game they played together as kids, but it definitely crosses the line of what is okay and what's not okay, as far as terrorizing kids and beating people up and things. And then you see him as an adult, and I don't want to ruin the rest of it, but that's going through the story. That's kind of the precipice of that. So on the back, there is some back matter with this collection. And you read the back matter left to right, and then the rest of the manga is read right to left. And this is an essay about the mangaka. And it's written by Kawakatsu Tokusiji. You can see, I love this too. They always include this in these Smudge books. The original tankobon from Japan, you can see the book design of that and how different Sean Michael Richardson went with his design. And I have to say, I like Sean Michael Richardson's design a lot better. But this is cool too. I just love seeing this classic tankobon. One day I will go to Japan and just sit there and flip through manga for hours probably. And it'll be things like this. But they go through his history as a mangaka and other stories he worked on, and how he worked on this exact format of this one-and-done manga that this one publisher turned out. And he churned out 29 albums across 5 years or so, and said that he's pumping out basically 180 pages of manga, which this is, in 2 months. So it took him 2 months to do this whole album, which is amazing, that kind of output. And then you get through here, the greatest hits, the best of this mangaka, Kawashima Norikazu, and you get like a little synopsis of each story. And we have yet to see Smudge repeat a mangaka. We have not seen them put out two from the same mangaka, which is kind of awesome. Like they're not just, it's not like they're going through and just reprinting all the Junji Ito stories, which is fine and amazing. I love that Viz is doing that. But it's not like they're just sticking to one mangaka and just putting out. They're picking and choosing different manga, and it's putting quite a catalog together. And some of these titles are just amazing, like the mother and the decapitated head. Give me fresh blood. The decapitated head returns. So it's just like the bully who loses her head. So just really fun. I love the back matter. I love the history being included in here. I'm all about comic book history, and I want to know more about these mangaka. The second one I'm not going to go on too lengthy about. I did do a separate video of this last October, which I'll link above or in the description below if you want to see me pour over this for 10 minutes or longer. But this is really, really great stuff. UFO Mushroom Invasion. This is like the first one that I saw that I was like, oh man, I'm all in on this, because these are all like pulp horror manga. And what they remind me of a lot of is like the pulp novels, like pulp paperback novels of like, like Richard Stark crime novels, or even like the Edgar Rice Burroughs, Conan and fantasy novels that he would do, or anything of that sort. I just really love the idea of just like going like in the airport and just picking up a paperback pulp novel and reading it on the airplane, and then you're done, one and done, sitting. You can read it in one sitting, kind of thing. I just love that kind of nostalgic, romantic idea of that. But yeah, so this is UFO Mushroom Invasion. I wax poetic about this. This is probably my favorite of the three still. This is like more sci-fi horror, and you get this asteroid that hits Earth, and it crashes on. Like I love this title lettering too, with all the mushrooms involved. And from this asteroid, all these spores and fungus and mushrooms start growing, and then from that they start doing kind of an invasion of the body snatchers thing, taking over people's bodies, and it's just really, really great. I believe the back one here does have some back matter as well. Yeah, it does. So I believe this is the cover and spine of the original UFO Mushroom Invasion tankobon, and I have to say, not great. Like, I love the cover. The cover is kind of eerie and amazing, but this book design is incredible. But I'm not here to, talk about how the salesmanship of these in Japan back in the day. But regardless, here's UFO Mushroom Movie. I think this is another cover, which that one's really, really cool. I like that one. It's kind of ominous and whatnot. So you get some back matter on this story and this mangaka as well. And it talks about how he's a fan of Ridley Scott's Alien and Star Wars. So having the sci-fi aspects in here is obviously prevalent. And here's the best of this mangaka: The Vampire Legends, The Face of Hell, Bloodsucker Archipelago, The Man-Eating Flying Saucer. That's a great cover. Like, that's good book design right there. That's another great cover right here too. Maybe just the one Mushroom Invasion cover that wasn't great, because these are all amazing. I'd read any one of these. The Flying Saucer of Donzuru Peak. So I'm hoping we get more sci-fi manga from this mangaka with Smudge. If they wanted to repeat one, I'd love to see more from Shirakawa Marina. And the last is Mansect. This is the most recent output, and that's only until Face Meat comes out. This is by Koga Shinichi, and this one, if you're into body horror, especially, or if you're a big fan of like Junji Ito, I think this is the most like Junji Ito story of the Smudge imprint line. And the only reason I say that is because I know Junji Ito is like the gateway mangaka for Western comics fans. I know he was exactly that for me. It was Junji Ito's Uzumaki was the first manga I had ever read, and then I started dabbling in more manga. So this is like I said, body horror. If you want to get an example of that, there's this guy turning into an insect right here. So this came out in the 70s, so I don't know what it derived its inspirations from, but I can tell you that things like The Fly, the great horror movie, or Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis, like those kind of bent on humans and insects and one turning into the other. Like I said, I don't know if they draw inspiration from it, but it definitely reminded me of that. Which one came first or second, I'm not sure. But it starts off as kind of like an anthology story of all these different people throughout the city that are turning into insects or just shriveling up into like these deformed horrific looks about them. At first, they think some people are turning into like shriveling up into older selves, older versions of themselves. But then they turn into like this insectoid kind of horrific aspect. But then it carries on into a larger story. That's all kind of like, it's really interesting. I don't know how this was originally serialized or if this was originally, well, this was a one and done, wasn't it? I don't know if there's, hold on, let me see if I can find that out right now. Yeah, I forget. I don't know if this was originally serialized in a magazine like most manga is, or if it was, and that's where the kind of the chapters come from, as far as like the anthology aspect I'm talking about, or if this was all done in one and done. I can't imagine it being one and done just because of the way it's kind of broken up into bits in the beginning. But it does eventually bleed into this overarching, longer story of this human turning into this horrific monster, and then everyone around him freaking out about that, and then him freaking out about how everyone else is going to start turning into these kind of insectoids. He's wrapped up like a mummy in this one scene, and he befriends this young girl until horrific things happen to them. I don't want to spoil that. But really, really great body horror manga. I can't recommend this one enough. There's less back matter in this one than there were the other two, which I don't know if that's because there's less information available of Koga Shinichi. I hope it's not the beginning of a trend for Living the Line as far as not including a lot of back matter, because I really love the back matter of her Frankenstein and UFO mushroom invasion. Having that kind of context of how the stories were made and serialized and some other works by these mangaka was really, really interesting to me, and I love that kind of stuff about comics and comics history. So, because the back matter of this one, the story ends, and then you just get a little bio of Koga Shinichi, and then the original Tankobon design, which I'm really glad they included this, and I hope they continue to do that, because I like to see what it looked like in Japan when they first purchased it, or when people first purchased it off the shelf. And again, not to say the design by Sean Michael Richardson is better, but this does have a kind of a classic manga look to it. And then that's it. So yeah, these are awesome horror manga. I cannot recommend them enough. I hope that I kind of guided you on which one you should try out first, if not all of them. And like I said, Face Meat comes out later this month, I believe, if not early next month. I can't remember. But very, very soon. And then there's another... the 5th volume is going to be, I think it's called My Gorilla Family, if I remember correctly. And I can't wait for that one to come out. And then there's an unannounced manga, horror manga that's coming out in October. They have on their kind of on their website. So there will be another. So we'll get 3 more this year, it sounds like, in 2025. So I'm excited for that. But everyone, please give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts on these manga. And subscribe if you haven't already. I look forward to talking with all of you about comics. And everyone try these out. Keep talking comics. Keep talking manga. Keep talking everything to do with some control art.